This is a ASMR movie review of Cruella, and Cruella just came out, 2021, and I've been a longtime fan of Emma Stone, and she always delivers an interesting, captivating performance, and I really liked Cruella. And it wasn't just her in this particular movie. There were some excellent performances by all of the supporting cast. And another shout out to Paul Walter Hauser. I absolutely loved his performance as Horace. And I think I'm a pretty big fan of his, because he's quite the character. He adds this character to movies, and it's just really interesting to watch him. His facial expressions are fantastic in this movie. I was pleasantly surprised at how good the origin story of Cruella de Vil was in this. Like, it was very well written. I think they did a fantastic job at Disney in setting up potential sequels, potential remakes of other things. I mean, you could remake 101 Dalmatians, and I think the writing team behind this really knocked it out of the park. I don't have too many bad things to say. I would say, for a movie that's 2 hours and 14 minutes, it probably could have cut some of that. I don't think it needed to be that long, but in comparison to many other movies, it's not like it was a 3-hour movie. But I did find that it was maybe dragging at points, but it was, for the most part, keeping me entertained from beginning to end. I was interested, and it had a little bit of everything in it, this sort of rise to celebrity. There's even some heists, and I'm not going to get into too many of the different things. I don't want to spoil the story, but I believe that Emma Stone and Emma and I go way back to the Superbad days in 2006. When she was on Superbad, I said, wow, I think this kid could go far, and she has. In the last little while, it's been tough with the way the world has been, so it's great to see a movie that can kind of take you away from the trials and tribulations of things. But this isn't your typical villain story. The real villain in this movie is Emma Thompson, performing as the Baroness, and she's actually the antagonist in this film. So it's a bit of a shock there. And I'm not giving anything away by saying that. You can basically tell right from the beginning that, like, that's her role. And Cruella's actually made out to be kind of like an anti-protagonist. It is a very unique kind of protagonist, but she was somebody who was like, I don't know, not quite like a villain, like somebody you would want to root for. And the more I kind of reflect on it, the more I realize, it has some elements of like the Joker movie. That Joker movie, you had the Joker, who you were actually rooting for, and you were against the establishment. And in a way, this movie kind of showed that you would be rooting against the establishment once again, the establishment being Emma Thompson and her capitalist approach to fashion and whatnot. And Emma Stone's Cruella kind of comes in and reinvents how one might look at fashion. And I thought the performances were great. I mean, Emma Stone delivered with a unique accent. I think she created a persona, and she had to play multiple dimensions. She did a wonderful job. Do I think she could have been more crazy? I think so. Due to the fact that Cruella's really this kind of crazy individual. You kind of like the dog killer. You look at that and you say, well, could she have gone a little bit more Joaquin Phoenix, you could say, in this movie? Like, I think she did an admirable job overall, and like the lacking in some areas in the more of the outlandish. I mean, even though it might have been lacking just a little bit there, I think overall she delivered a multi-dimensional character, and one she's never really played before to this kind of depth. So I was quite impressed. And Emma Thompson, her performance kind of reminded me of Meryl Streep in The Devil Wears Prada. Is essentially the exact same character. It's like cut from the same cloth, this wretched individual, and you can't help but root against her. I kind of want to see Cruella as more villainous, but it's very interesting. And when you're making a Disney movie and you're dealing with dark characters, you're trying to make it appropriate for many ages, for all different audiences and age groups. So you kind of you have to be careful with how you go into the darkness, but I think it did well. You're essentially talking about unique topics, psychological traumas, and all of this, and loss, and dealing with suffering, and you need to be able to make it something for all audiences. That can be very difficult to put together into a movie, and Disney seems to know how to do it. If you look at like Inside Out, that's an example of where it talks about some serious themes, and it delivers some psychological themes that may not be appropriate in the typical context for younger audiences, yet they can deliver. So Disney's able to look at that line and say, well, we can dance on that line and deliver something that's appropriate. And the truth is, there have been several like 101 Dalmatians has the cartoon, and then the live action. Like it's been there. It's already been handled. So I think they had something to work with already, and they just needed to tweak some things, make it unique. But I love the origin story. I think it fills a lot of holes that maybe somebody might have for 101 Dalmatians, and I liked the delivery. I think this is an absolute win, and there aren't incredible movies coming out these days. Like there's sort of like mediocre movies coming out, and this one I would say was above average. It was above average, and you could tell that work had gone into making this movie. That some thought had really gone into this to deliver a very unique kind of movie. So I hope it does well. I hope it does well with audiences, and I'm definitely a fan. What else would I have liked to have seen? Ooh, Glenn Close produced it. She was the executive producer, but I thought it interesting that she wasn't a part of the cast, or at least had a cameo, because she was Cruella de Vil years ago. And it's just interesting that she never had a part, and she can act, and she can still act. So I thought it was interesting that she didn't make an appearance. But my understanding is she was passing the baton to the next generation. The rest of the cast, I think, just delivered the kind of performances. But I would definitely recommend that people watch it. I think it's a good idea to watch it. I think you'll enjoy it no matter what age you are. And you don't even have to worry about any harm to animals. It's animal friendly, so if you like dogs, there are dogs. I thought it was interesting that the Dalmatians were really portrayed as quite vicious. But you'll see at the end that there's a bit of a difference. Something happens. More Dalmatians come onto the scene, and but the main Dalmatians in the movie, the 3 Dalmatians, they were seen as quite vicious, like, and nothing like I've ever pictured a Dalmatian to be. So I thought that was interesting. Now, I have not watched 101 Dalmatians recently, so I'm reviewing this as a standalone piece, without really any memory of what they were doing in 101 Dalmatians. Some of the scenes brought back some nostalgic feels, some of the characters, and I'm like, oh yeah, that character. And there are some different elements that have returned. So I think people who really had 101 Dalmatians in their minds, they'll get kind of some nostalgia out of this. And I think in the end you will fall in love with Emma Stone's character. I think you will support the character, and definitely go see it. I think that's pretty much it. It concludes this ASMR movie review of Cruella.